Nobody wakes up one day and decides to develop an addiction. It does not happen like that. It happens slowly, quietly, in the spaces where pain lived longer than it should have. If you have ever wondered why someone you love, or why you yourself, this video is for you. Addiction is one of the most misunderstood things in human experience. It is talked about in terms of weakness, of poor choices, of self-destruction, and that framing, however common, gets almost everything wrong, because addiction, at its root, is not about substances or gambling or any specific behavior. It is about pain. It is about a person who found something that made an unbearable feeling temporarily bearable and held onto it. If you have ever loved someone who struggled with addiction, you may have spent years trying to understand why they could not simply stop. You may have felt angry, then guilty for being angry, then lost. If you have struggled yourself, you may have spent years wondering what was wrong with you, why the thing that seemed so straightforward for other people felt impossible for you. This video will not answer every question, but it will give you something more useful than judgment, a way of seeing what is actually happening underneath, and why understanding it matters far more than condemning it ever could. And the very first thing to understand might completely change the way you see this. The single most important thing to understand about addiction is this: it begins as an answer, not a problem. The person who takes a drink and feels, for the first time in years, that the anxiety living in their chest has gone quiet. They have found something that works. The person who sits down at a gambling table and feels the noise in their head finally stop. They have found relief. That is what addiction is in its earliest form. Not self-destruction, not weakness, relief. The problem comes later, when the thing that once offered relief begins to demand more and return less, when what began as a solution slowly becomes the problem itself. But understanding that it started as a solution, that there was a real pain it was genuinely answering, is the beginning of understanding why it is so hard to leave behind. You cannot simply take away an answer without first addressing the question it was answering. Research into addiction has shifted dramatically in recent decades. What was once understood as a moral failure is now understood as a response to pain. Specifically, pain that was never given anywhere to go. Childhood environments where emotions were not safe to express. Losses that were never fully grieved. Trauma that was absorbed quietly and never processed. Loneliness that settled in so gradually it became invisible. When pain has nowhere to go, it does not disappear. It looks for an exit, and whatever opens that exit first, alcohol, substances, gambling, anything that produces even temporary relief, becomes connected to that exit in the brain. The body remembers it, the brain reinforces it. Every time it works, even a little, even just enough to get through the next hour, the connection strengthens, and what looked from the outside like a choice was, from the inside, something much closer to a survival response. This does not make it less serious, but it makes it far more understandable than most people are ever told. And this next one explains something about the kind of person addiction most often finds. One of the most consistent findings in addiction research is that the people most vulnerable to developing one are often people who feel things very deeply. Not people who feel nothing, people who feel everything. Sensitivity, empathy, a rich and restless interior life. These are extraordinarily common in people who struggle with addiction. They are also traits that make ordinary life feel louder and more overwhelming than it does for many others. When you feel things at a higher intensity than the people around you, and when the world never offered you tools for managing that intensity, the thing that turns the volume down becomes extraordinarily valuable. This is not weakness. This is a nervous system trying to regulate itself with the only tool it found. And it is one of the reasons why the most powerful thing anyone can offer a person struggling with addiction is not judgment, but genuine curiosity about what they have been carrying all this time. There is a widespread misconception that addiction is primarily about pleasure, about someone enjoying something so much that they cannot stop. But anyone who has been through it, or loved someone who has, knows that this is rarely what it looks like. What it looks like is someone who needs to feel normal, who cannot get through the day without it, who is not chasing a high so much as trying to escape a low that never fully goes away. The technical term for this is negative reinforcement, using something not to feel good but to stop feeling bad. And it matters enormously, because it changes the nature of the struggle entirely. When you understand that the person is not primarily seeking pleasure, but seeking relief from something painful, the question stops being, why can they not just stop? And becomes instead, what are they still in pain about? That question is where real understanding and real help finally begins. And this next one is perhaps the most important thing in this entire video. Of all the things that make addiction harder to leave behind, shame is the most powerful and the least talked about. Shame does not motivate change, it paralyzes it. When someone believes that their addiction is proof of their unworthiness, of how broken they are, of what a failure they have been, they do not find the energy to stop. They find more reasons to escape. And the thing they use to escape is right there, waiting. This is why judgment, however well-intentioned, almost never helps. Why ultimatums rarely produce lasting change. Why the people who make it through are most often the ones who encountered, somewhere along the way, someone who looked at them without disgust, who said, "I see what you are carrying, and I still see you." The research on this is consistent. Connection, not shame, is what interrupts addiction. Being seen without being condemned is what opens the door that shame keeps permanently closed. There is almost always a generational thread running through addiction that rarely gets named. Many people who develop addictions grew up in homes where pain was not discussed, where certain emotions were simply not allowed, where the adults around them were themselves carrying things they had never been taught how to process, and the children learned by watching that the way you handle what hurts is to find something that makes it quiet. Generation after generation, the coping strategies passed down were not strategies for feeling. They were strategies for not feeling, and those strategies had consequences that only became visible much later. And before we finish, the one thing I want you to hold on to from everything in this video, if you are watching this because of your own struggle, or because someone you love is struggling, the most important thing this video can offer is this: addiction is not a character flaw. It is not the final word on who someone is. It is a response to pain that found the wrong exit. And responses can change. When the pain is finally given somewhere honest and safe to go, understanding why does not excuse anything, but it opens a door that blame and shame keep permanently locked. If you are carrying this, try one small thing this week. Tell one honest person one true thing about what it has been like. Not to fix it in a day, just to stop carrying it completely alone. That is where things begin to shift. Not in grand gestures, but in the quiet act of being known by someone who does not flinch. If someone you know needs to hear this today, share it with them. It might open a door that has been closed for a long time. Take care of yourself, and we will see you next time.